Lewis and Clark, a wild ride through history and a whole lot of mud. Hey there, history buffs and curious minds. Ever wonder what it was like when America decided to take a peek at its brand new gigantic backyard? Buckle up, because we're diving headfirst into the epic adventure of the Lewis and Clark expedition. Get ready for a classroom lesson that's more Indiana Jones than boring textbook. Imagine buying a house and then finding out you accidentally bought half a continent. That's basically what happened with the Louisiana Purchase. In 1803, President Thomas Jefferson, a man who clearly loved a good bargain, snagged a whopping 828,000 square miles of land from Napoleon for a cool $27 million. That's like, what, a few cents an acre? Talk about a steal. But there was a catch. Nobody really knew what was in this giant chunk of land. Was it full of gold? Giant monsters? Friendly neighbors? Jefferson needed answers, and fast. Jefferson tapped his personal secretary, Meriwether Lewis, to lead the expedition. Lewis, a man of science and adventure, was like the Swiss Army knife of the early 19th century. He got crash courses in botany, zoology, medicine, and even celestial navigation, because, you never know when you'll need to navigate by the stars while wrestling a grizzly bear. Lewis then picked William Clark as his co-commander. Clark was a seasoned military man and a skilled cartographer. Together, they were the perfect team: brains and brawn, science and strategy. Think of them as the Batman and Robin of American exploration, but with more beards and fewer gadgets. Before hitting the trail, Lewis had to gather supplies. He went to Harper's Ferry for weapons, oversaw the construction of a massive keelboat, and even designed a portable iron-framed boat. Talk about being prepared. And let's not forget Seaman, Lewis's Newfoundland dog. Seaman wasn't just a furry friend, he was a vital member of the team, acting as a guard dog, hunter, and morale booster. Plus, he probably got all the best belly rubs after a long day of exploring. The expedition, officially known as the Corps of Discovery, was a diverse group of soldiers, frontiersmen, interpreters, and even a slave named York. They were a tough bunch, ready to face whatever the wilderness threw their way. Imagine being stuck on a boat with these guys for over 2 years. There were bound to be some interesting stories and maybe a few arguments over who got the last buffalo steak. On May 14, 1804, the Corps of Discovery set off from St. Louis, Missouri, and began their long journey up the Missouri River. They traveled nearly 8,000 miles, pushing, pulling, and poling their heavy keelboat against the current. Life on the river wasn't easy. They faced sweltering heat, torrential rain, and the constant threat of capsizing. And let's not forget the mosquitoes. Those little bloodsuckers were probably the expedition's biggest enemy. One of the expedition's main goals was to establish diplomatic relations with the Native American tribes they encountered. Lewis and Clark held councils with tribal leaders, offering gifts, promises of trade, and invitations to visit Washington, D.C. They even put on a bit of a magic show, using magnets, compasses, and Lewis's air gun to impress the locals. Imagine seeing an air gun for the first time. It must have seemed like something out of a science fiction movie. Not all encounters were friendly. The Lakota tribe, who already had established trade ties with the British, weren't thrilled about the Americans muscling in on their territory. A tense standoff ensued, with the Lakota attempting to block the expedition's progress. Fortunately, Chief Black Buffalo's diplomacy prevailed, and a potential conflict was averted. As winter approached, the expedition built Fort Mandan near the Mandan and Hidatsa villages in present-day North Dakota. They spent the winter months preparing maps, writing in their journals, and sending back specimens to President Jefferson. Imagine being cooped up in a fort with a bunch of smelly explorers for months on end. It's a wonder they didn't drive each other crazy. In the spring of 1805, the expedition hired Toussaint Charbonneau, a French-Canadian fur trader, and his Shoshone wife, Sacagawea, as interpreters. Sacagawea proved to be invaluable, not only as a translator, but also as a guide and a symbol of peace. She knew the land, the people, and the customs of the region. Without her, the expedition might have been lost in the wilderness. Plus, she carried her newborn son, Jean-Baptiste, on her back for much of the journey. Talk about a supermom. As the expedition continued up the Missouri, they encountered the Great Falls, a series of waterfalls that required an 18-mile portage. This was one of the most difficult stretches of the entire journey. The terrain was rough, the weather was harsh, and the grizzly bears were plentiful. The men had to haul their heavy equipment and supplies over the broken ground, all while dodging prickly pear cactus and hailstorms. After reaching the Three Forks of the Missouri, Sacagawea recognized Beaverhead Rock, a landmark that indicated they were nearing Shoshone Territory. Lewis crossed Lemmy Pass, becoming one of the first Americans to cross the Continental Divide. But his hopes for an easy passage were dashed when he saw the endless mountains stretching before him. The expedition still had a long way to go. The Shoshone provided the expedition with horses and a guide, Old Toby, who led them across the Bitterroot Range. The crossing was treacherous, with the men suffering from cold, hunger, and exhaustion. They finally emerged from the mountains onto the White Prairie, homeland of the Nez Perce tribe. The Nez Perce, thanks to the wise counsel of an elderly woman named Wakuiz, befriended the expedition and provided them with food and shelter. After leaving their horses with the Nez Perce, the explorers built canoes and floated down the Clearwater and Snake Rivers, eventually reaching the Columbia River. On October 16, 1805, they reached the Pacific Ocean. Clark famously wrote in his journal, "Ocean in view. Oh, the joy!" After months of hardship and uncertainty, they had finally reached their destination. The expedition spent the winter of 1805 to 1806 at Fort Clatsop, near present-day Astoria, Oregon. The weather was wet and miserable, and the men spent their time writing in their journals, drying meat, and making salt. They hoped to encounter a ship that could take them home, but none arrived, so they prepared to make the long journey back east. In the spring of 1806, the expedition began their return journey. They divided into several groups to explore different parts of the region. Lewis and three men encountered a group of Blackfeet warriors. A deadly altercation ensued, resulting in the deaths of 2 Blackfeet. The incident cast a shadow over the expedition's legacy. On September 23, 1806, the Corps of Discovery arrived back in St. Louis, where they were greeted as heroes. They had been gone for over 2 years, and their journey had captured the imagination of the American public. Congress rewarded them with double pay and public land. Lewis was appointed governor of Upper Louisiana Territory, and Clark became an Indian agent. The Lewis and Clark expedition was more than just a journey of exploration. It was a pivotal moment in American history, shaping the nation's understanding of the West and its relationship with Native American tribes. While the expedition had its flaws and its legacy is complex, it remains a testament to the courage, determination, and scientific curiosity of the men and women who took part in it. So, what can we learn from the Lewis and Clark expedition? That exploration is hard work, that teamwork is essential, and that even the most daunting challenges can be overcome with perseverance. Now it's your turn to embark on your own adventure. Whether it's exploring your own backyard, delving into a new subject, or simply trying something new, embrace the spirit of discovery and see where it takes you. Here's your call to action. Dive deeper. Research a specific aspect of the Lewis and Clark expedition that interests you. Share your thoughts. Leave a comment below sharing your favorite fact or takeaway from this lesson. Explore further. Visit a museum or historical site related to the expedition. Subscribe for more. Join our community of history enthusiasts and stay tuned for more exciting lessons. Let's keep the spirit of exploration alive.